podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now. Got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now. Got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida TV. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Playground is your premier gaming destination. What would you do with $2.5 million? It's time to find out at Playground. Every hour you play poker earns you entries into their multi-millionaire maker promotion. Join them as of June 1st from 9:30 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. for hourly draws and your chance to pick 5 lucky cards, hit a royal flush, and you'll instantly win $2.5 million. Visit playground.ca for details. I'm Marinaro. It is the Sick Podcast. Thank you for watching on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter. And thanks for listening on all social media platforms. The Sick Podcast also brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. They're a top fleet employer in Canada. Just ask Forbes magazine. Check out their career section on their website at shipenergy.com. It is a great place to work. Also brought to you in part by Bittt Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the summer with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. Without further ado, why don't I bring in, of course, my guest from TSN, their hockey analyst and their director of scouting, Craig Button. How are you?
I am great, Tony. How are you doing?
Extremely well. Thank you very much. It seems like a decade since the Montreal Canadiens last played hockey, but it was only like last month type of thing. But here we are. We continue to go, of course, and we're going 12 months a year talking Montreal Canadiens hockey on the Sick Podcast, as you know, Craig. And, you know, we've had a chance to see what the template is in the playoffs and which teams go far, what kind of players they have, some of the ingredients you need. And it kind of highlights maybe some of the ingredients the Canadiens don't have as of yet. And it probably also emphasizes on who would be better fits should some of those players become available. And today I'd like to take a look at the forward position with you, whether it's defense, whether it's wing, whether it's second line, third line, or fourth line. You need 4 lines to win a Stanley Cup, right? As much as some are more important than others, I think we're seeing that. Hey, Craig, you need 4 lines to win a Stanley Cup. There aren't too many coaches. If you want to go the marathon that is the Stanley Cup final and probably play up to 28 games, you need to roll your lines.
Who can go the hardest, the longest? That should be the mantra. And certainly, if you don't have enough players, you're going to run out of gas. You might be highly competitive, but you're going to reach a point where you literally hit the wall. And when you're building your team, you have to keep in mind that playoff hockey, remember, 16 teams that aren't very good are gone out of the playoffs. They're out. So now you're only playing against good teams. And that only gets harder as time goes on in the playoffs. So if you don't have the depth, if you don't have the type of players that fit what I call playoff template hockey, and that playoff template, as we discussed last week, is not changing. It's not changing, Tony. Bottom line, it can't change. It won't change. So to make sure that you build your team that way, and then to understand what it takes, that's what makes the Stanley Cup such a challenging trophy to win. And in the same breath, when you do win it, immensely rewarding.
At the year-end presser, Jeff Gordon, Executive Vice President of Hockey Operations of the Montreal Canadiens, and of course, General Manager Kent Hughes, talked about balance. They talked about a lot of things. They talked about wanting to have a blend of young players and veterans, but at the same time, they don't want veterans to block the way for young players. They don't want to put certain obstacles in the way of those young players, but it's kind of like a puzzle, right? You still kind of have to have some of those veterans on your team, some of those young players on your team. And, you know, it takes all kinds of different players to end up having that winning formula in the playoffs. And so I think it was, I don't know now, probably 3 weeks ago or whatever. Time flies when you're having fun. But I had a discussion with Eric Engels of Sportsnet, and we brought up different names at the center ice position. And just for the sake of discussion, he brought up the name Matthew Barzal, whether he's available or he's not available, or whatever. He just brought up his name. And he said, you know, there's a guy who obviously has a lot of talent and had a couple of seasons in the 80s. And, you know, mostly everyone would say I would take that kind of player on my team. But Eric was saying the Canadians are going to try their very best to try and go after players that they believe will be that piece to the puzzle. And at times they might even sacrifice on bringing in a less talented player or, maybe even a less productive player if that other player can do certain things that that player cannot. And Eric was saying, as good as Matthew Barzal is, he said, for example, let's just say Bo Horvat was available or wasn't. He said he thought that would be a player that would interest the Canadians a little bit more than Barzal. A little bigger, a little thicker, probably a little harder to move off the puck, very good in the face-off circle. I'm not so sure you agree or disagree with any of this, but I mean, that was where the discussion was going. So we're going to talk about who could probably be great fits for the Montreal Canadiens, more so than who are just the best players that could be or might not be available.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can look at individual productivity and you can sit down and say, well, that player is not as productive as the other player. But when you're building your team, you're building it to be able to meet all the different challenges you're going to face in the game. And when you can say, okay, we need this for our scoring. Well, we need this for our defense. We need this to be able to get the puck out of our own zone. We need this for penalty killing. We need this for the power play. We need this for the wall battles. So there's not just one type of player that's going to fit all those different positions. It's football, Tony. You need tight ends, and you need wide receivers, and you need running backs, and you need an offensive line. You need a quarterback to be able to function and score. On the defensive side, you need good defensive linemen. You need linebackers. You need DBs. You need cornerbacks. Like, if you just want to take a whole bunch of cornerbacks and make them your defensive line, you're not going to win. If you want to just take a whole bunch of wide receivers and make them your offensive line, you're not going to win. You need players to play the different areas of the team. Hockey is like football. It's a full team game. And when you start to look at the different scenarios you're faced with in the game, you need players that can play in those situations and get on the right side of them.
Who are some of those players? Of course, the most pressing need everyone knows by now is a number 2 centerman. That's the bad news because they're not easy to come by. The good news is at least you're not looking for a number 1 centerman. The good news is you definitely have one in-house in Nick Suzuki, so you don't have to worry about that. Craig, talk to me about the profile, without naming a name just yet, but the profile of what kind of second-line centerman the Montreal Canadiens should be looking for and what that player needs to do to be a good fit on the Canadiens.
Well, there's different types of profiles, but when you have the number 1 center checked off, so now you want somebody that can play behind that guy. You're not asking him to play in front of him. You're just asking that guy to come in and do things that are important to winning, contributing offensively, being able to match up and create opportunities for your team. Let's say the other team puts their best defensive pair on Nick Suzuki, which they should. Now you want that second centerman to take advantage of a second pair defense. They want to put somebody that's really good defensively. Let's say they want to put Ryan O'Reilly in his prime, or let's say they want to put Sasha Barkov on Nick Suzuki. Well, now what kind of a second line center can you play against that can match up against Sam Bennett or Anton Lundell? I'm using current examples with the Florida Panthers. So you're looking at players that can not only contribute offensively, but you don't need them to be prolific offensively. You need them to be good offensively. You need players that are going to be able to give you some advantages. When I talk about the Montreal Canadiens and I go to the 70s and, I talk about Doug Risebrough or Doug Jarvis, they had Mahovlich and Lemaire. But you think it was any fun playing against Doug Risebrough? You think it was any fun having to find your way to check and get an offensive chance against Doug Jarvis? It was no fun. Very different players. And Jacques Lemaire was a great two-way, great defensive player, excellent offensive player. So when I talk about the template, would everybody like to have a Draisaitl McDavid, a Crosby Malkin, a Gretzky Messier? Yeah, those are the what I would call the superstar top two centers. Unfortunately, they don't exist very often and they're not commonplace. So what do you try to do? And the key here for Montreal, in my view, is they have a number one center. They have a clear-cut number one center that can carry the demands. And now you need somebody to come back in there and support it and give you advantages in that next group. Because every team is layered, right? Every team is layered. How do you – okay, so our first line can get an advantage. How do we get our second line to get an advantage?
All right, okay. So on that note, let's talk about this second line. When you think second line centers, give me a couple of names.
Well, I mean, I think the first one, and I'm going to go back to Eric Engels. If I'm the Montreal Canadiens, and it's not a knock against Matt, I have no interest in Matt Barzal. I don't want Matt Barzal on my team.
Really, eh?
No, not because of him. A thing. I don't need Matt Barzal. I need Bo Horvat. I want Bo Horvat. Again, I want to be very clear here. This is not a criticism of Matt Barzal. It's about the template, what I want. Matt Barzal doesn't fit it for me. I could be wrong, but he doesn't fit it for me. Bo Horvat does. So I want to say that. If we go to the free agent market, I mean, Sam Bennett's the ideal guy, is he not?
Yeah, he definitely is. He definitely is.
There's no, I mean, first of all, he's 29 years old, right? He plays a game. To me, that is exactly the guy that I want. I want Sammy Bennett.
I do too. Some are going to say he doesn't pick up points, and I say to them, this guy's so much more than points.
Oh,
if you're just looking at points, you're missing the target here.
Tony,
right?
Can I just add one thing to that? This isn't fantasy hockey. This is about winning when it matters and when it's the hardest. You know what? There's lots of guys that get points. Bottom line is Sammy Bennett gets you the wins.
You just talked about his age, and you said, Tony, he's 29. And I guess you're not overly worried about this, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. It doesn't worry you at all that the type of hockey that he plays, he's 29, but he could hit 32 tomorrow instead of 3 years from now? Actually, he's 28, pardon me. He'll be 29 in the third week of June, but chances of breaking down maybe before his contract is up. Doesn't worry you?
You know what? I worry about climate change, Tony. Does it mean I don't go out in the sun? Like, does it mean that I don't go out and enjoy the outdoors?
Oh, no, man, that's good. I'm gonna use that line one day, Craig Bunn. I'm telling you, I will give you credit for it, but I'm gonna use that line.
Use it as you wish.
I'm
not worried about Sammy Bennett. You know what? Sammy Bennett can come and play on my team any day of the week, and the way he plays and what we need, he got Guy Carbonneau. Bob Gainey brought Guy Carbonneau into our team in Dallas. Guy Carbonneau was not the same player in his best years in Montreal as captain, helping the Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
What Guy Carbonneau was he was a warrior with a warrior mentality and an understanding of what he was still capable of doing, and to help others understand that too. Go get the points. You want to get into a fantasy league, go get your points. I'm interested in wins. I'm interested in finding a way to get 16 wins in the playoffs. Sammy Bennett helps me get that.
Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by a place where Craig Button and I spent some time, Souvlaki Authentique. You know them for their amazing and delicious Greek food with 7 locations. New Souvlaki Authentique. For a limited time, you can get your order delivered for just $2 when you order on their website. Yes, just $2. So go to souvlakiauthentique.com and enjoy fast, hassle-free delivery at an unbeatable price. And they now have a loyalty program. So sign up before your next order and start accumulating points. Also brought to you in part by Betway. Go all the way with Betway. Who's going to win the Stanley Cup? You tell me. Go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200. First bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. Shane Gaumont and Master Control, you have some audio for me. Play it.
I would say, if you're just watching, if you just go on the playoffs, obviously, compete, adding players with some size, a little compete, some skill, obviously. So, listen, as we're building the team out, we're trying to get better in all areas, right? So we're not a finished product, but I think there's not one area of our team where we're saying we're done there, right? So we'll continue to look at everything and try to build it out. But, I think everyone's talking about size and Washington and the way they played, and certainly we're aware of that. And as we move forward, Kent and I have a lot of discussions about this, size. Compete is really the biggest thing, making sure that we have people that are comfortable in a playoff environment to play in all situations. But there's really nothing we won't look at to try to improve it.
And I would say, along Jeff's comments about compete, we got a lot of young players who lived it for the first time. Some of them are big players. They just have to learn how to use their physical attributes to impact the game more in a playoff environment, and that's new for them, right? I was trying to think of a poor Ivan Demidov who flies over here, has his flight tracked, his people waiting for him at the airport, comes and plays a playoff game against a really young first game against a young inexperienced team. He's trying to figure out the city, the language, everything else. By game 2 in the playoffs, there's a brawl going on the bench beside him. I was trying to how do you adjust to all these different things that are being thrown at you? And obviously that's the extreme case, but there's an adjustment that happens for young players, and I think we've all seen it over the years, watching other hockey teams or watching this hockey team in prior years, and that's part of it. It's not, we can't just run around and eliminate players from our lineup to replace them. We have to ask them to continue to adjust their games too.
All right, so there you have it. Interesting comments from both Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes. Jeff Gordon says, look, it's not just one thing. We're looking for a little bit of everything, right? But in the end, probably out of everything, compete. Players that compete and playoff hockey and are comfortable in that kind of environment. That's what we're looking for. You just named Sam Bennett, but the Florida Panthers have had tremendous success over the last couple of seasons, and Sam Bennett's a big part of it. Hard to imagine they not giving him an empty check and saying just whatever, and when the Florida Panthers make you that kind of offer with all the success they've had over the last couple of years, and let's face it, there's worse places in the world to live than Florida, it's going to be pretty hard to get you out of there.
Well, it'll be hard to get you out of there, but you could have said the same thing about the Tampa Bay Lightning after they'd gone to the Stanley Cup finals 3 years in a row and won 2 of them. But reality with the salary cap means you lose players. They didn't want to lose Yanni Gourde. They didn't want to lose Ryan McDonough for a period of time. They didn't want to lose Blake Coleman. But the reality came that you couldn't keep everybody. And it's going to happen to Florida as well. It's just what happens. Now, I'm not saying that they're not going to keep Sam Bennett, but keeping Sam Bennett means that you got to evaluate where else will your roster now have to be reinforced. Back to Jeff Gordon's line, and Kent, who I thought were brilliant in those comments that they made. But you're trying to build it out. You're asking your young players to do more and to understand what the playoffs are about. Kent's comments, but you lose a good player. Well, who's ready to come in and do that? And how long will it take? Because you also have the scenario now where the Florida Panthers, they have a Stanley Cup mentality, just like the Tampa Bay Lightning had a Stanley Cup mentality. And they're going, okay, what player's coming in here to help us? And the players know this fast if they can help. That fast when you've won, they know this fast who can help. Mm-hmm. That's why development, having players in place, being patient, so that when you have to make these decisions based on your salary cap, that it's not just about plugging a player in. It's about saying, hey, listen, we're Stanley Cup caliber. Are we ready now for these players to come in and do exactly what we've been doing and what the players are accustomed to? So you're right. Maybe there's a blank check, but a blank check to Sammy Bennett means that another player becomes available. And so the process, and let's just look at it. They lose Montour. They lose Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Two really good, important players for their team.
Mhm.
Well, what do? Well, they come back and they make a big trade for Seth Jones. And they bring in Nate Schmidt. Oh, Nate Schmidt. He played for Paul Maurice. Paul Maurice knows him. He says, here's what I can do with him. Right? So there's going to be players out. There's going to be players in. It's about making sure, again, that, okay, what do we need? And what are we going to ask the player to do? That's where Florida has done an excellent job. And I think that's the task at hand for the Montreal Canadiens.
Do you have a name other than Sam Bennett who is not a Sam Bennett but could be a poor man's Sam Bennett?
Yeah, he's a restricted free agent, and this now becomes part of a trade.
Okay.
And I really like him, and I've watched him play for a number of years, all the way up. And I think he's got some of that, and he's big, and he's got some nastiness to him, and he's got some skill. And that's Dmitry Veronov of the Columbus Blue Jackets. This guy plays. This guy plays. Remember, Sam Bennett was acquired in a trade.
Yes.
And a lot of people might not know who Dmitry Veronov is.
Oh, I definitely know who he is because
I just said a lot of people might.
Well,
that guy plays.
Well, I didn't have him in my pool, and down the stretch, let me tell you, he put up a lot of points. But here's a guy that I think is more comfortable on the wing. Here's a guy that had played with several players, played with Monahan and Marchenko at one point, played with Fantilli at another point. I think he even played with Cole Sillinger at one point, but he's a good player. Veronkov is a good player. So you see some sandpaper in him, huh?
I see lots of it, and I've seen lots of it over the years. He doesn't shy away from the challenges. He's right in the mix. And I think like Sam, they had Sam Bennett play the wing in Calgary. It's not like Sam. It's not like to your point, you're trying to fit players in different spots. I get it. Leon Draisaitl's played left wing, but I see Veronkov as a guy that can be a good, hard second line center.
Who put up 18 goals in 75 games a year ago and put up 23 this past season, put up 34 1 year ago points, put up 47 this past season. So he's basically on the uprise. He's 24 years old, turned 25 in the middle of September, and he is 6'5" and about 230 pounds. This guy is hard to knock off the puck.
Yeah, well, he's hard to knock off the puck. He imposes himself. There's a lot of guys that are big that might be hard to knock off the puck.
Yeah.
I want guys that impose themselves. Anton Lundell, Luosterainen,
I love Antoine Lundell. I love Antoine Lundell.
Impose themselves.
Yeah. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Bittt TV. They launched a new Ultra Lager. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for summer with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. Ultra light, ultra refreshing. The wing position. So we just talked about a player, Veronkov, who can play wing. Could we talk? Do you have any other wingers in terms of depth down the lineup?
Well, I'm going to go. Nikolai Ehlers, who I think is a terrific player. I would be surprised if the Winnipeg Jets, based on Kevin Cheveldayoff's record of getting his players under contract, if he doesn't return to Winnipeg.
Oh, really? I believe so. He's an unrestricted free agent, of course.
I know, but I do. But Nick, that dynamic skill. Now, remember, I'm looking at this in multiple ways. I'm looking at Demidov. And I'm looking at what he's capable of doing with other good, like-minded players that think and have the skill. I think Ehlers would be dynamite with a guy like Demidov. I think Brock Besser, who's got size and weight and can score, right shot guy. He knows how to play with good players. He knows how to get open. Demidov knows how to get you the puck. The other guy that I would look at hard and try to see, because it looks like he's starting to move in that direction, and he's a restricted free agent, is Jack Quinn of the Buffalo Sabres. And I think the Buffalo Sabres are a team that have to look at making some changes, but those types of players, I mean, I think Jack had half a point a game just about this year, but I've watched him for a long time. He had some injuries. I think he's ready to take those next steps. So those are just 3 players that and I'm specifically looking at the right wing. The other guy that I would inquire about, and I'd make the phone call, I'd phone Craig Conroy in Calgary, and I would ask about 2 players. I'd ask about Nazem Kadri, and I'd ask about Blake Coleman.
Yeah. When you just mentioned, and I'll get to them in a second, but when you just talked about a couple of players who are restricted free agents, how would you tackle that? Because obviously there's a possibility in an offer sheet there. So what do? You call the team and you say, listen, would you rather work out a deal because I don't want to offer sheet him? I don't want to do that to you. How would you tackle it?
Well, first of all, if you're gonna make the threat of an offer sheet, you better have the offer sheet plan already laid out. That's number one. There's very few offer sheets. There's a lot of trades. I think it's about talking about, like, let's just use Jack Quinn as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Adams, what are you looking for? What is there anything here you're interested? You got to be straightforward and honest. What would it take for us to get Jack Quinn? What are your thoughts? Well, I'm not trading Jack Quinn. Okay, like is there anything that you might reconsider? That's where the conversations go.
Yeah.
And then you get a feel, and you might start one place and you might end up somewhere else. But that's where, I don't think you start with a threat, because if you're going to always just start with a threat, I'm a big believer. If you're going to make a threat, you better be ready to carry it out.
Jack Quinn had 15 goals this past season. He had 9 the year before that in a shortened season, of course, where he only played 27 games. The year before that, he played 14. He had 14 goals in 75 games. His career high was 37 points several years ago. He had 39 points this past season, so that's his career high. And of course, he's playing on, I know where you're coming from, Craig. He's playing on a team where so many very good players in the past, unfortunately, have not looked good. And this player, too, a change of scenery, and who knows, he might just blossom.
Well, he might be ready to blossom. There's a reason why flowers don't bloom in January in Montreal. It's because the environment is cold. It's not conducive to blossoming. And we want players to blossom, snap of a finger. We draft them in the first round. Why aren't they there yet? Everybody matures at different rates. I'm watching for progress. I'm watching for continued development, and I don't close my mind to it. I see Jack Quinn progressing. So I'm going to start exploring. Is this somebody that we could get? Is this somebody that we could acquire? And is this somebody that fits for what we're trying to do?
Awesome stuff, Craig Button. There's a lot of information there for a lot of Montreal Canadiens fans to really chew on for quite some time, and I'm sure they're going to enjoy the podcast tonight. Thanks for doing this, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, there you have it. Craig Button from tsn.ca, the director of scouting and their hockey analyst, of course. Special thanks to all of our sponsors. Energy Transportation Group is one. Playground is another. Bittt Tibi is another. Souvlaki Authentique is another. And Betway is another. And special thanks to all of you for watching on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. For Shane Gaumont and Master Control, it's a Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.